Welcome to the Freedom Club Podcast, where we discover the fight for freedom, fulfillment, passion, and purpose. Your host is Curt Gallup certified strengths coach, an agency founder who is dedicated to coaching individuals seeking to level up their life and their businesses. The Freedom Club is about unlocking your talents, turning them into strengths, and crushing your objectives. You can learn more at curtmercadante.com. Welcome to the Freedom Club.
Happy Freedom Friday, everyone. This is the Freedom Club Podcast. I am your host, Curt Mercadante. I'm so happy you are here, whether this is your first time listening or your 101st time listening. That's right. We surpassed 100 episodes a week or so ago. I don't even keep track of those things because numbers, vanity metrics aren't really important to me. What's important to me is fulfilling my mission, which is saving the world by helping individuals like you listening right now, helping individuals fight for lives of freedom and fulfillment. And a big part of living a life of freedom and fulfillment is really having good health. And I'm not just talking about physical health, I'm talking about mental health. And so today I want to talk to you about something very specific that bridges that physical-mental health divide. Now, some of you know that 10 years ago, I suffered anxiety, had anxiety attacks, and changing my lifestyle, changing my career helped that a great deal, right? Fundamentally changing. But I also made some fundamental diet changes. I was having major stomach problems for a long time. A lot of that was affecting my mental health as well. And I switched my lifestyle. I'm on the paleo. I live the paleo lifestyle right now. In short, meat, protein, fats, vegetables. I don't eat gluten, no dairy, no wheat, those types of things. I haven't had a beer in 10 years. Haven't had a soft drink in 10 years. No processed foods, those types of things. Yes, no bread, no pasta. And you may be sitting there saying, oh gosh, I could never give that up. Well, that's fine. It's up to you. It's your choice. And if the pain of giving up bread isn't enough for you to fix your health and maybe ward off the pain of cancer, heart disease later down the line, then you've got to figure out a way to make that change. It's up to you. You have free will. But today, I'm not going to talk to you about all that today. Today, what I want to talk to you about is one word, cortisol. It's the stress hormone. And in a 2013 Psychology Today article, Christopher Bergland calls it public enemy number one. Public health enemy number one. And he writes, scientists have known for years that elevated cortisol levels interfere with learning and memory, lower immune function and bone density, increased weight gain, blood pressure, cholesterol, heart disease. The list goes on and on. Google it, go to Psychology Today, check it out. Google cortisol, stress hormone, health. There's a ton of information on that. And a lot of people never think about it. And what I found is my mental and physical health, a big way that I can help keep that under control is really thinking about and being intentional about my cortisol levels. So I used to drink a ton of coffee. After lunch, I'd have a 1 or 2 o'clock coffee in the afternoon. What I found out was, boom, that was raising my cortisol levels, my stress hormone. But it was also in my system into the night, and it was affecting my sleep. And when you don't get enough sleep, what happens? Increased cortisol levels, right? I used to read on my iPad and scroll through my smartphone all the time at night. You know, that blue light affects your sleep before bed. When my sleep's affected, cortisol level rises, right? And so everything I've done, everything I do now, I have my mind on cortisol because I can tell when I have increased cortisol levels. A, my sleep is bad. B, I get massive stomach pains. I feel a little more inflamed. I start feeling the sniffles a little bit more. And now I want to say this right now. These are my experiences. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a health professional. I'm just telling you my experiences, and I urge you to talk to your doctor, to go and research for yourself. But as Christopher Bergland writes right here, I mentioned things. Chronic stress and elevated cortisol levels also increase risk for depression, mental illness, and lower life expectancy. So basically what cortisol is your adrenal glands release cortisol into your body as part of the fight or flight mechanism, right? And so if you are in that fight or flight mechanism and you have to fight yourself off, you have to go for a mile run, right? You're burning off that cortisol. You're using it up. But if you're stressed all day sitting at your desk and just stressed and you have that fight or flight that has triggered cortisol level that has built up in your body and you're not using it up, instead it's just paralyzing you and you're so stressed and all day long, that's when it becomes unhealthy. As Christopher Bergland writes, once the alarm to release cortisol has sounded, your body becomes mobilized and ready for action. But there has to be a physical release of fight or flight. Otherwise, he writes, cortisol levels build up in the blood, which wreaks havoc on your mind and body. And I will tell you, for me, I get massive, massive stomach pains. I also, if my cortisol levels, if I feel they've built up, my belt doesn't fit. I don't know if I'm putting on weight or if I'm just bloated or inflamed or what, but my pants don't fit, my clothes don't fit well. And I can tell it's linked to lack of sleep, the caffeine I'm drinking, yada, yada, yada. So he gives a few ways to lower it. Some regular physical activity, right? If you have that physical activity to let out some aggression, you can reduce the cortisol. He recommends mindfulness, meditation, right? Obviously, that's stress relieving. For me, I combine the two. I go for long walks alone and it allows me to think and meditate as I get my physical activity and meditate and mindfulness at the same time. Now, he mentions social connectivity, but I want to say something with this. One thing I know that raises my stress levels, which certainly boosts my cortisol levels, is spending a lot of time on social media, specifically Facebook, and watching the news. And for a year and a half now, I've been on what Tim Ferriss calls a low information diet. I know some people who will sit there for 7 or 8 hours watching cable news. And I don't care if it's MSNBC or Fox News, they're all the same damn thing. And they get so mad. And as they're watching it, they're scrolling through Facebook. And you can tell they're watching it and getting so fired up and stressed. And they're firing off all these Facebook posts with typos and exclamation points. And they're so mad. Their cortisol levels, you can tell, are building up in their body, but they're sitting their ass on the couch not doing anything. I used to get fired up by watching cable news. You know what? A lot of times I do it before bed, or I'd scroll through my Facebook feed before I go to bed. So not only was the blue light, affecting my ability to sleep, which was going to raise my cortisol levels, I was getting so angry and fired up right before bed, and there was nothing I was doing. So I recommend the low information diet. Now, some people come and say, well, it's not responsible for you not to watch the news. All right, here's a couple things. First of all, I worked in politics. I worked my ass off in politics for 20 years, volunteering, doing things in my community, fighting for causes, okay? And most of the people who tell me that, who say, why don't you watch the news, have never volunteered for a damn thing in their life. So my recommendation to you is, instead of sitting on the couch and getting pissed off and stressed, get your ass out of the house and volunteer and actually work for something you care about. It's actual action. You're actually getting something done rather than sitting and sharing your Facebook post, which is either preaching to the choir or pissing off half your Facebook group, okay? The other thing is, if you have that fight or flight response because you're so mad about something some politician did, go and work off that aggression by volunteering. Go walk door to door, right? You'll get in some physical activity as well. But the other piece of that is, I don't miss a beat. I still know everything that's going on. It's amazing if you don't read the news and sit there and marinate in the bullshit all day on cable news or Facebook. You still know what's going on. You're just not angry about it all the time. So that's one big thing that has affected me and impacted me as well. I find that music, Christopher Bergland recommends it, certain music helps me. I actually love AC/DC, which is like heavy rock music, but it gets me motivated to go out and work out, it just gets me motivated versus stressed. I love laughter. Christopher Bergland recommends laughter and levity. And so what I want you to do today is I want you to go and Google cortisol and health. And I want you to look at all the ways that you might be increasing cortisol levels in your body without a commensurate strategy for releasing that cortisol. And I'd like you today to identify 3 things that you are going to do starting tomorrow to intentionally think about and control cortisol levels in your body. Maybe it's lowering your caffeine intake and certainly not drinking caffeine in the afternoon. Maybe it's committing to, instead of sitting your ass down and watching cable news for 3 hours, reading a paperback book, right? Again, not looking at the blue light iPad before you go to bed. Maybe it's on the weekend, instead of sitting and watching cable news and scrolling your Facebook feed, go out and volunteer for a campaign. The elections are in a couple weeks. Go out and volunteer for a campaign. Walk door to door. You'll get your exercise. Maybe it's, you know what, every day at lunch, instead of that cup of coffee, I'm going to go out for a walk. Maybe it's around my office, corporate campus. Maybe I work from home. I'm going to go take a walk outside. Identify 3 strategies, not just strategies, 3 action items you are going to do starting tomorrow to start controlling, getting a better handle on those cortisol levels in your body. Because I will tell you, for me, intentionally thinking about and managing my cortisol levels has been a game changer for my physical and my mental health, and it has been a huge part of building freedom and fulfillment in my life. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of this Friday. I hope you have a weekend filled with freedom and abundance, and yes, some better cortisol levels. This has been the Freedom Club Podcast. I'm your host, Curt Mercadante. I'll talk to you Monday. Thank you.